March 14th, 1944, 0630 hours. Marine Fighter Squadron 214, Torquemada Airfield, Bougainville. The morning air hangs thick with aviation fuel and red volcanic dust. Captain Robert Cowboy McLean crouches beside his F4U Corsair, number 577, running his hand along the wing route where the factory-installed .50 caliber machine guns sit. Around him, the sounds of a forward air base coming to life, mechanics shouting over starter motors, the metallic clank of ammunition belts, distant artillery rumbling from front lines just 8 miles away. McLean isn't satisfied. He's flown 17 missions in 3 weeks, and every strafing run on Japanese coastal shipping ends the same way, watching his tracers spark harmlessly off steel hulls. 6.50 cows devastate aircraft, tearing through aluminum like tissue. But against armored decks and reinforced holds, pebbles against tanks. "Sir, you're going to get us both court-martialed," says Technical Sergeant Mike Dubrowski, wiping grease onto filthy coveralls. He's McLean's crew chief, a stocky Polish kid from Detroit who could rebuild a Pratt & Whitney R2800 blindfolded. Right now, he's staring at the schematic McLean drew in the dirt, a crude diagram showing additional gun mounts in the Corsair's wings. McLean stands, squinting against the rising sun, turning palm trees into black silhouettes. He's 24, 3 confirmed kills, and a reputation for pressing attacks closer than anyone else in the squadron. "Mike, I shot up a convoy 2 days ago off Rabaul. Emptied everything into a cargo ship, probably carrying supplies. Know what happened? Rounds bouncing off. That ship sailed away, smoking a little, still moving." Dubrowski lights a cigarette, shielding the match. "Navy boys handle shipping. We're fighters, air superiority, maybe ground support. Ship killing? That's dive bomber work." Navy boys are stretched thin. McLean picks up a spent 20mm cannon shell from a nearby crate, salvaged from a destroyed Japanese position. The brass casing gleams dully, nearly twice the diameter of his .50 caliber rounds. The Japanese run convoys at night, hugging coastlines, using islands as cover. By the time dive bombers get coordinates, ships have dispersed into coves. But fighters? We can patrol low, spot them, hit them immediately. With what? Those pea shooters? McLean grins wolfishly. With these. He hefts the 20mm shell. Ordnance guys say we captured a stockpile of Japanese Type 99 cannons last week, 20mm autocannons, same guns they mount on Zeros. Dubrowski's eyes widen. "You want to put Jap guns on your Corsair?" "I want cannons on my Corsair. Don't care whose factory they came from. Type 99 fires explosive rounds that'll punch through deck plating. I've measured. Wing structure can take it. Remove 2 inboard .50s from each wing. Use those bays for cannons. Ammunition feeds need modification, but you're the best wrench turner on this island." March 14th, 1944. 1400 hours. Torquemada Airfield. After Boyington leaves, work continues with renewed intensity. The mounting brackets must be fabricated from scrap steel, shaped to fit both Corsair wing structure and Type 99 mounting points. Dubrowski uses a cutting torch to shape metal, then drills precise bolt holes using a hand drill, measuring and remeasuring to ensure perfect alignment.
The brackets must handle recoil forces of the cannons, roughly 1,500 pounds of force per gun when firing at full rate. McLean assists where he can, but mostly stays out of Dubrovsky's way. The sergeant works with focused intensity, occasionally muttering calculations or cursing when measurements don't align perfectly. Other mechanics stop by offering help, but Dubrovsky waves most of them off. This is precision work that can't be rushed or delegated. By 1800 hours, both cannons are physically mounted in the wings, jutting forward from leading edges like predatory fangs. The ammunition bays have been modified to accept 20mm rounds, with custom fabricated feed chutes guiding ammunition belts from storage drums to cannons. Dubrovsky has rigged a voltage converter using parts cannibalized from a destroyed radio set, providing the 24 volts Japanese firing motors require. The electrical system is the tricky part, Dubrovsky explains, wiping sweat from his forehead. Japanese use different voltage, different firing sequence. I'm basically building a translator between American trigger system and Japanese guns. The work continues as afternoon bleeds into evening, then into night. Portable work lights are strung around the aircraft, creating a pool of harsh illumination against the dark jungle beyond. Moths and insects swarm the lights, and somewhere in the distance, tree frogs maintain their rhythmic chorus.
The Corsair's gun trigger, a button on the control stick, has to be rewired to fire both remaining 50 caliber guns and new 20mm cannons simultaneously. Dubrovsky installs a separate arming switch on the instrument panel, allowing McLean to select which weapons fire. It's crude but functional. By 2200 hours, the modification is complete. Dubrovsky has loaded 120 rounds of Type 99 ammunition into each cannon, a mix of armor-piercing and high-explosive incendiary rounds. The remaining 4 50 caliber machine guns are fully loaded with 400 rounds each. McLean's Corsair now carries 6 guns, 4 50s and 2 20mm cannons, firepower comparable to some light bombers. Test fire in the morning before your mission, Dubrovsky says, exhaustion heavy in his voice. I want to make sure feed mechanisms work properly before you take her into combat. McLean nods, too tired to argue. They've been working 16 hours straight, and tomorrow's mission launches at 600 hours. Get some sleep, Mike, and thanks. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you come back with this thing still in one piece. McLean tries to sleep, but can't. He lies in his tent listening to the jungle sounds, running through mental checklists. What if the mounts fail? What if the electrical system shorts out? What if the recoil is too severe and damages the wing structure? He staked his reputation and possibly his career on this modification working. At 500 hours, he gives up on sleep and heads to the flight line. The morning is dark and humid, stars still visible overhead. Dubrovsky is already there, conducting final checks by flashlight. Couldn't sleep either, McLean asked. Nope, been running through everything twice, 3 times. It's all solid, Skipper. This will work. They conduct a test firing at 5:30 hours, 50 rounds from each cannon, fired into a dirt berm at the airfield edge. The explosive rounds detonate on impact, throwing up geysers of earth and shredded vegetation.
The recoil is noticeable but manageable, and feed mechanisms cycle smoothly. The wing structure shows no signs of stress. Dubrovsky runs his hands over the mounts one final time, checking for any loosening or stress cracks. She's ready. Go kill some ships.
Dawn breaks gray and humid. McLean straps into the cockpit, conducting pre-flight inspection with extra attention to wing-mounted cannons. Each mounting point is visually checked, each bolt tested for tightness. Everything looks solid, but there's no way to know for certain until guns fire in combat. The R-2800 engine roars to life with deep, powerful rumble that vibrates through the entire airframe. 18 cylinders producing 2,000 horsepower drive a massive three-bladed propeller 13 feet in diameter. The Corsair shudders against wheel brakes, eager to fly. McLean's wingman for this patrol is Second Lieutenant James "Jimmy" Chen, a Chinese-American pilot from San Francisco who joined 3 months ago. Chen's Corsair, standard configuration with 6.50s, pulls alongside as they taxi to the runway. Through hand signals, they confirm mission parameters. Coastal patrol along northern Bougainville, then northwest toward Japanese-held Buka Island. Intelligence suggests small cargo vessels are using the channel between islands to move supplies. At 0600 hours precisely, McLean releases brakes and advances throttle. The Corsair accelerates down steel matte runway, tail coming up at 40 knots, the entire aircraft eager to leave the ground. At 90 knots, McLean pulls back gently and the fighter lifts smoothly into humid air. Landing gear folds into wings with satisfying mechanical thunk, and he's climbing, Chen tucked tight on his right wing. They level off at 8,000 feet, heading northwest over green jungle hell below. Ocean appears ahead, an expanse of blue-green water sparkling in the morning sun breaking through cloud layer. From this altitude, water looks peaceful, almost inviting. But McLean knows better. Those waters are contested hunting grounds, where American submarines stalk Japanese convoys, where destroyers prowl for targets. For 40 minutes they patrol the coastline, following irregular shore where volcanic cliffs drop straight into the sea and narrow beaches gleam white against jungle green. They spot nothing but a few native canoes and wreckage of a Japanese barge, half submerged and rusting. Then Chen's voice crackles over radio. "Cowboy lead, this is Cowboy 2. I've got something at our 10 o'clock, about 15 miles out. Looks like 3 small vessels hugging the coastline." McLean banks left, scanning ocean surface. It takes a moment, but then he spots them. 3 dark shapes against blue water, clearly ships moving in formation close to shore. Small, probably coastal cargo vessels of 200 to 300 tons each, the type Japanese use to shuttle supplies between island garrisons. "I see them," McLean confirms. "Let's get closer before we commit." They descend to 2,000 feet, approaching from the sun side to make themselves harder to spot. As they close distance, vessels become clearer through McLean's gun sight. Definitely Japanese. He can see distinctive silhouettes, rust-streaked hulls, clusters of supplies lashed to decks under camouflage netting, probably carrying ammunition, food, or reinforcements to some isolated outpost. "Cowboy 2, I'm going in for a strafing run. You stay high and cover me in case any fighters show up." "Roger that, lead. Make it count." McLean pushes the stick forward, diving toward the lead vessel. The Corsair accelerates rapidly, airspeed indicator needle climbing past 300 knots. Wind screams past the canopy, and ships grow larger in his windscreen. Wooden deckhouse,
rust on hull, tiny figures of crew members scrambling as they spot the incoming fighter. At 500 feet altitude, McLean levels off, finger hovering over trigger. He's lined up perfectly on the vessel's stern, gun sights centered on deckhouse. The ship is close now, impossibly close, every detail visible. He can see faces turning upward, a crewman pointing at his aircraft. McLean presses the trigger. All 6 guns open fire simultaneously, 4 .50 caliber machine guns and 2 20mm Tannons. The difference is immediately dramatically apparent. The .50 caliber tracers arc across water and stitch up the ship's stern in a line of orange sparks. But the 20mm cannon fire is something else entirely. Each explosive round detonates on impact with bright flash and spray of shrapnel. The deckhouse simply disintegrates, wooden walls blown apart in shower of splinters. The mainmast topples, crashing across deck. Fire erupts from somewhere amidships, black smoke boiling upward. McLean holds trigger down for 3 seconds, pouring approximately 100 rounds into target, then releases and pulls up hard, climbing away as tracers from ship-mounted anti-aircraft guns chase him skyward. The Corsair's engine roars at full power, and G-forces press him down into his seat as he executes a climbing turn. "Jesus Christ, cowboy lead," Chen's voice crackles, excitement making words run together. "You just shredded that thing. It's dead in the water." McLean rolls level at 3,000 feet and looks back. The lead ship is indeed stopped, black smoke pouring from multiple fires on its deck, listing slightly to port. Crew members are jumping overboard, tiny figures splashing into water. The other 2 ships are scattering, turning hard to port and starboard, trying to reach cover of a nearby cove. "I'm going for the second ship," McLean says, blood singing with adrenaline. "Keep your eyes open, Jimmy." He rolls into another diving attack, this time approaching from port beam of the second ship. The ship's crew has seen what happened to their companion, and they're firing every weapon they have. Machine guns, rifles, probably pistols. Tracers arc upward in desperate streams of fire. McLean ignores them, focusing on gunsight, waiting for the perfect moment. At 600 feet, McLean fires again. The combined power of 6 guns tears into the ship's midsection. The .50 caliber rounds chew through steel hull above waterline, and 20mm explosive shells blow holes in deck plating. Something detonates inside the ship, probably ammunition or fuel, and a massive fireball erupts from the cargo hold, orange flames reaching 50 feet into the air. The explosion is so violent that McLean feels his Corsair shudder from the shockwave, even as he's pulling up and away. The second ship is finished, burning from stem to stern, with flames so intense that paint on the hull is blistering and peeling. McLean climbs back to altitude, checking ammunition counters. He's expended approximately 40 rounds of 20mm and 300 rounds of .50 caliber, less than half of his total load. The third vessel is making a desperate run for a narrow inlet between 2 headlands, probably hoping shallow water and overhanging jungle will provide protection from air attack. McLean rolls inverted and pulls through, diving almost vertically toward the fleeing ship. Airspeed builds rapidly, 350 knots, 400 knots. Controls stiffen as airflow increases, requiring more force to move the stick. Ship grows in windscreen, bow on now, its wake a white V across green water. At the last possible moment, McLean pulls out of the dive, leveling off just 200 feet above water. He's so low he can see fish scattering beneath the surface, startled by his shadow. The ship is directly ahead, perhaps 500 yards away, close enough that he can see individual crew members on deck and the desperate face of the helmsman through the bridge windows. He presses the trigger and holds it down. 6 guns, firing together, create a wall of lead and explosive shells that simply obliterates the front half of the vessel. The 20mm rounds rip through thin bow plating and detonate inside, blowing out the hull from within. The .50 caliber rounds chew through superstructure, killing anyone above decks. In 4 seconds, McLean pours 200 rounds into target from point-blank range. The ship seems to come apart. Bow collapses, dipping below waterline as water floods in through dozens of holes. Mast topples forward. Bodies and debris are thrown into the air by secondary explosions. By the time McLean roars overhead, missing the ship's antenna mast by less than 50 feet, the ship is already sinking, going down by the bow with alarming speed. He pulls up sharply, dumping speed with the climb, and looks back. All 3 ships are out of action, 2 burning fiercely, 1 sinking fast. Water is dotted with debris and survivors, tiny figures clinging to wreckage or swimming toward shore. It's 06:49 hours. The entire engagement lasted less than 10 minutes. Cowboy 2, this is lead. Form up on me. Let's head home.
March 15th, 1944, 07:32 hours, Torokina Airfield. The Corsair's tires squeal against steel matting as McLean touches down. As he taxis back to flight line, he can see a crowd already gathering. Word has somehow spread that the modified Corsair was going into combat today. Mechanics, pilots, ground crew, even the base commander's jeep is parked near the revetment. Major Boyington is waiting when McLean shuts down engine and climbs out of cockpit. The Major's expression is carefully neutral, but McLean can see interest in his eyes. "Well," Boyington asks, "did it work or did you waste a perfectly good Corsair?" "It worked, sir. 3 Japanese cargo vessels, all destroyed or disabled. Approximately 240 rounds of 20mm expended, maybe 800 rounds of 50 caliber. The cannons performed flawlessly, no jams, no failures, no structural issues." Dabrowski is already inspecting wing mounts, running hands over every bolt and bracket, checking for stress fractures or loosening. After 5 minutes of careful examination, he straightens up and nods. "Everything's solid, Major. No cracks, no deformation, no loosened fasteners. The mounts held up perfectly." Boyington walks around aircraft, studying cannon installations. Other pilots are pressing close, asking questions. How much damage did the cannons do? How many rounds per gun? What was the recoil like? Can we get them installed on our birds? "Captain, you just invented a new mission profile. Fighters as convoy killers. The Navy's going to love this. We're giving them another tool to strangle Japanese supply lines." He pauses, then grins around his cigar. "Course, you're also going to have every pilot in the squadron bugging you for the same modification." The debriefing takes 2 hours. Intelligence officers want every detail: ship types, defensive armament, damage assessment, ammunition expenditure, weapon effectiveness. McLean walks them through the entire engagement, and Chen corroborates every detail. The intelligence captain, a bookish lieutenant named Morrison, is particularly interested in the 20mm cannon effectiveness. "You're saying the explosive rounds penetrated the hull plating and detonated inside the vessels?" "That's correct," McLean confirms. "The 50 caliber rounds were effective against superstructure and personnel, but the 20mm shells did the real damage.
They punched through steel plating and exploded inside, causing fires and secondary detonations. The second ship I hit literally came apart. Something in the cargo hold went up like a magazine explosion. Morrison makes rapid notes. This changes our tactical options. We've been relying on dive bombers and torpedo bombers for anti-shipping work, but they're vulnerable to fighter interception and require good weather. Fast fighters with cannon armamation could patrol shipping routes and engage targets of opportunity immediately.
Over the next 3 days, the story of McLean's modified Corsair spreads throughout Marine aviation units in the South Pacific. By March 18th, Major Boyington has authorized modifications to 6 additional Corsairs in VMF 214. Dabrowski, assisted by a team of mechanics working round the clock, installs Type 99 cannons on the fighters of the squadron's most experienced pilots. The work becomes routine after the first few installations. Dabrowski creates templates for the mounting brackets, streamlining fabrication. The electrical modifications become standardized. By the 4th aircraft, installation time drops to 12 hours per fighter. McLean flies 3 more anti-shipping missions in the next week, each time finding and destroying Japanese coastal vessels. On March 19th, he sinks a 400-ton cargo ship carrying aviation fuel. The resulting explosion creates a fireball visible from Torquemada Airfield 30 miles away. On March 22nd, he catches 2 barges attempting to resupply an isolated garrison and leaves both burning and beached. The modified Corsairs develop a reputation. Japanese radio intercepts reveal that their coastal convoys now report cannon-armed American fighters as a primary threat. Some convoys refuse to sail during daylight hours, even with air cover, specifically because of the risk from Marine fighters with 20mm armament. On March 25th, the squadron receives official recognition. A message from Marine Air Group 14 headquarters commends VMF 214 for innovative tactical developments that have significantly disrupted enemy supply operations. The message specifically mentions field modifications to F4U aircraft resulting in enhanced anti-shipping capability. More importantly, Marine logistics officers have arranged for steady supplies of American-made 20mm ammunition. The captured Japanese stocks are running low, but Hispano cannon rounds, with minor modifications, work perfectly in the Type 99 cannons. The supply pipeline is now secure. By month end, all 12 Corsairs in VMF 214's first flight have been modified with 20mm cannons. The second flight is scheduled for modification as soon as sufficient captured Type 99 cannons or American-made Hispano cannons become available.
April 7, 1944, 0545 hours, VMF 214 Ready Room. Major Boyington stands before a large map of the northern Solomon Islands, pointer tapping the blue expanse of St. George's Channel. Gentlemen, we've been so successful at hitting coastal shipping that the Japanese have adapted. Intelligence reports they're now running larger convoys with destroyer escorts and fighter cover. Today, we're going after a big one, 9 ships, probably carrying reinforcements and supplies to Rabaul. The room goes quiet. 9 ships is different than 3 coastal cargo vessels. This is a major operation with serious defenses. We'll send 8 modified birds with 4 standard Corsairs flying top cover. McLean leads the strike package. Launch at 1800 hours. Intercept around 20-30 hours. There'll be enough twilight to see what you're shooting at, but getting dark enough that Japanese fighters might have trouble finding us after the attack. McLean stands when Boyington gestures. He's flown 11 anti-shipping missions now, destroying or damaging 15 vessels. He's learned lessons that he needs to share. The Japanese have adapted their defenses. They're mounting more anti-aircraft guns on vessels, and their gunners are getting better at leading targets. We've taken hits on every recent mission. So we adapt too. He points to a diagram on the blackboard. Attack from astern or bow on. Minimum altitude, 50 to 100 feet above water. That's below the depression angle for most of their heavy guns. Fire in short bursts, 2 to 3 seconds maximum. Long bursts waste ammunition and give them more time to track you. Aim for engine rooms and fuel bunkers. They're below the waterline, but we can reach them by firing into the hull at waterline level. The 20mm shells will penetrate and detonate inside. Lieutenant Chen raises his hand. What about destroyers? They'll have serious anti-aircraft capability. Avoid them, McLean says bluntly. We're after cargo ships. Destroyers are heavily armed and armored. Let the Navy deal with them. We hit the merchants and get out.
April 7, 1944, 20:31 hours, St. George's Channel. The convoy appears exactly where predicted. 9 ships in 3 columns, with 2 destroyers providing escort. The sun has set, but twilight still provides adequate visibility. The ocean is deep blue-gray, the ships dark silhouettes against lighter water. McLean leads his 8-plane formation down from 10,000 feet, diving toward the rear of the convoy. 4 Corsairs remain at altitude, watching for Japanese fighters. The attack is coordinated. All 8 fighters will hit different targets simultaneously, overwhelming the convoy's defenses. At 1,000 feet, McLean selects his target, a large cargo ship in the center column, probably 800 tons. He can see anti-aircraft guns traversing, searching for threats. Tracers begin arcing upward as Japanese gunners spot the incoming fighters. McLean drops to 75 feet above the water, so low that his propeller kicks up spray. The ship looms ahead, growing rapidly in his windscreen. Anti-aircraft fire intensifies, tracers creating bright arcs in the dimming light. He ignores them, focusing entirely on his gun sight, on the timing, on the perfect moment to fire. At 400 yards, he presses the trigger. 6 guns open up, creating the familiar devastating stream of fire. The .5 calibers walk up the ship's stern, and the 20mm cannons punch explosive shells into the hull at waterline level. He can see the detonations, bright flashes as explosive rounds tear through steel and explode inside the vessel. He holds fire for 3 seconds, then releases and pulls up hard, banking right to avoid the ship's superstructure. Something, probably a 25mm round, punches through his left wing, but the Corsair keeps flying. He climbs to 2,000 feet and looks back. His target is listing heavily to port, smoke pouring from below decks. Fires are visible through the hull plating where his 20mm rounds blew holes. The ship is clearly out of action, probably sinking. Around the convoy, chaos reigns. All 8 modified Corsairs have attacked simultaneously, and 7 of the 9 cargo ships are burning or disabled. The 2 destroyers are firing furiously, but ineffectively. The fighters attacked too low and too fast for the destroyer crews to track them properly. All cowboy flights, this is lead. Break off and head home. Don't press it. The Corsairs climb away into the gathering darkness.
Behind them, the convoy is a scene of devastation. Ships burning, one capsizing, survivors jumping into the water, the two destroyers racing between vessels, trying to render assistance.
April 30th, 1944, 1600 hours, Torquay Airfield. Captain Robert McLean stands beside his Corsair, number 577, watching Sergeant Dubrowski perform routine maintenance. The fighter has flown 23 combat missions since the cannon modification, destroying or damaging 31 enemy vessels. The aircraft is scarred now. Patched bullet holes in the wings, paint faded and chipped, the cannons showing wear from repeated firing. But it's still flying, still fighting. Major Boyington approaches, unlit cigar clenched in his teeth. "Got news, Captain. You're being transferred to Pearl Harbor. They want you training other squadrons on anti-shipping tactics with modified fighters. Seems word has gotten up the chain that we've been strangling Japanese supply lines with field modifications." McLean feels mixed emotions. Part of him wants to stay with VMF 214, with the squadron he's helped make into ship killers. But another part recognizes the opportunity. Training other pilots means spreading these tactics throughout the Marine air wings. "When do I leave?" he asks. 3 days. That gives you time to write up everything you've learned: tactics, weapon effectiveness, maintenance requirements, ammunition expenditure. Everything that'll help other squadrons implement this modification. He extends his hand. "You did good work here, cowboy. Started with a crazy idea about putting Japanese guns on American fighters and turned it into a tactical revolution. The Navy's taking notice. I hear some carrier squadrons are already planning similar modifications." They shake hands, and Boyington walks away. McLean turns back to his Corsair, running his hand along the wing where the 20mm cannons jut forward. Such a simple idea, adding more firepower, but it changed everything.
Over the next 3 days, McLean documents everything in meticulous detail: mounting procedures, electrical modifications, ammunition types and effectiveness, attack angles, altitude considerations, target priorities, damage assessment criteria, everything a pilot or maintenance crew would need to know. He also writes about the psychological effect. The Japanese fear these modified fighters now. Coastal convoys refuse to sail during daylight. Supply lines have been disrupted. Isolated garrisons are running short on ammunition and food because supplies can't reach them safely. The modification started as one pilot's frustration with inadequate firepower. It became a tactical innovation that changed how Marines fight the island-hopping campaign. On May 3rd, McLean takes off from Torquay for the last time, heading to Pearl Harbor. As he climbs away from Bougainville, he looks down at the airfield, at the rows of modified Corsairs being prepared for the day's missions. 12 fighters in VMF 214 now carry the cannon modification. 3 other Marine squadrons in the Solomon Islands have begun similar programs. The idea is spreading. May 15, 1944, 0900 hours, Marine Air Group Headquarters, Pearl Harbor. McLean stands before 40 pilots and maintenance chiefs from 6 different squadrons, a pointer in his hand and a captured Type 99 cannon sitting on a table beside him. Behind him, a blackboard is covered with diagrams, mounting specifications,
firing angles, attack profiles. The key to effective anti-shipping work isn't just having the right weapons, it's understanding how to use them. The 20mm cannons give you penetration and explosive effect that .50 calibers simply can't match. But you have to hit the right places. He points to a ship diagram on the blackboard. Engine rooms, fuel bunkers, ammunition storage. These are your targets. A ship can survive damage to superstructure and even survive fires on deck, but punch holes in the engine room or rupture fuel tanks below the waterline and the ship is finished. One of the pilots raises his hand, a lieutenant from VMF 323. What about defenses? How do you survive the anti-aircraft fire? Speed, altitude, and surprise. Come in fast, 300 knots minimum. Stay low, 100 feet or less above water. That puts you below the depression angle for most heavy guns, and you're only in their engagement envelope for a few seconds. Attack from a steer or bow on to minimize your exposure. And never make a second pass. One attack, full commitment, then break off immediately. The training session lasts 4 hours. McLean covers everything, from the technical details of mounting cannons to the split-second timing required for successful attacks. The pilots take notes, ask questions, study the diagrams with intense focus. By June 1944, 15 Marine fighter squadrons across the Pacific have begun implementing the cannon modifications. Some use captured Type 99 cannons like VMF 214. Others use American-made Hispano 20mm cannons, which are becoming more readily available through supply channels. A few experimental units even test British-made Oerlikon cannons. The results are consistent across all squadrons. Fighters with 20mm cannon armament are devastatingly effective against Japanese coastal shipping. Cargo vessels, barges, patrol boats, even small warships fall victim to these attacks. Japanese supply lines throughout the Pacific begin to strangle as Marines systematically destroy the small vessels that feed isolated garrisons. August 12, 1944, 14:30 hours. Office of Naval Intelligence, Washington, D.C. Commander Harrison Webb studies the reports spread across his desk. Damage assessments from the Pacific Theater covering April through July, 1944. The numbers are striking. Marine fighter squadrons have destroyed or damaged 347 Japanese vessels during this period. The vast majority of them by fighters equipped with 20mm cannon modifications. 347 ships. That's roughly 3 ships per day being taken out of Japanese logistics networks. Most are small, coastal cargo vessels, barges, auxiliary craft, but their loss is crippling. Japanese garrisons throughout the Pacific are reporting critical shortages: ammunition, food, medical supplies, reinforcements. All of it depends on those small vessels making their runs between islands. And now, those vessels are being systematically hunted and destroyed by modified Marine fighters. Webb makes a note in the margin of his report. Recommend immediate expansion of fighter anti-shipping programs. Field modifications by VMF 214 have proven tactically decisive. Should be standardized across all Marine fighter squadrons and evaluated for Navy carrier air groups. The recommendation will be approved. By October 1944, the cannon modification will be standard equipment for Marine Corsairs operating in the Pacific. By December, Navy carrier squadrons will begin receiving Corsairs equipped with 4 20mm cannons from the factory. No field modifications needed. But it all started with one pilot who was frustrated with watching his bullets bounce off steel hulls. One crew chief willing to risk his career on an unauthorized modification. One squadron commander who understood that combat effectiveness matters more than regulations.
September 23, 1944, 1700 hours, VMF 214 Airfield, Peleliu. Technical Sergeant Mike Dubrowski wipes grease from his hands, stepping back from the Corsair he's just finished working on. It's not number 577. McLean's original bird is long gone, shot down over Rabaul in June with a different pilot at the controls. This is a newer F4U-1D, fresh from the factory, already equipped with 4 20mm cannons installed by Chance Vought engineers at the factory in Connecticut. The factory-installed cannons are cleaner, more elegant than Dubrowski's field modifications. The mounts are precision machined instead of hand fabricated. The electrical systems are integrated properly instead of jury-rigged from salvaged parts. The ammunition feeds are smooth and reliable. But they're the same basic design that Dubrowski created in March on Bougainville. Same placement in the wings, same firing mechanism, same devastating effect against Japanese shipping. A young pilot, fresh-faced ensign who looks about 19, approaches nervously. "Sergeant, I'm supposed to fly this bird tomorrow. First combat mission. I heard you were there when they first put cannons on Corsairs." Dubrowski nods. "That's right. Torquemada Airfield back in March. Captain McLean had this crazy idea about putting Japanese guns on his fighter. Did you think it would work?" Dubrowski lights a cigarette, thinking back to that night 7 months ago, working under portable lights, fabricating mounts from scrapped steel, rewiring electrical systems with parts salvaged from destroyed radios. "Honestly, I thought we'd be court-martialed. But McLean was right. Sometimes you gotta break the rules to win the war." The ensign looks at the Corsair with new respect. What happened to Captain McLean? He's at Quantico teaching advanced tactics, training the next generation of ship killers. But I guarantee you, somewhere right now, some Marine pilot is looking at his aircraft and thinking, "I wonder if we could modify this to make it better." That's how wars get won, one crazy idea at a time. The ensign climbs into the cockpit, running through his pre-flight checks. Dubrowski watches, remembering that morning in March when McLean took off with untested modifications for the first time. The same nervous excitement, the same determination, the same willingness to risk everything on an idea that might just work. The Corsair's engine roars to life. The fighter taxis toward the runway, its wing-mounted cannons gleaming in the late afternoon sun. Tomorrow, this pilot will hunt Japanese ships in the waters around Peleliu. He'll attack from low altitude, firing explosive 20mm rounds into hulls and superstructures. He'll use tactics developed by McLean, refined by dozens of other pilots, proven effective in hundreds of combat missions. And somewhere, a Japanese supply convoy will burn. Dubrowski crushes out his cigarette and heads back to the maintenance tent. There are 8 more Corsairs to prep for tomorrow's missions. The work never ends, but that's fine. As long as there are ships to sink and pilots willing to fly, there's work for a good crew chief. The sun sets over Peleliu, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. In revetments across the Pacific, from the Solomons to the Marianas, from Peleliu to the Philippines, modified Corsairs sit ready for the next day's missions. Each one carries the legacy of Captain McLean's crazy idea. Each one represents the willingness of ordinary Marines to innovate, adapt, and overcome. The cannon-armed Corsair didn't win the war by itself, but it helped strangle Japanese supply lines, starve isolated garrisons, and give American fighters a new role in the Pacific campaign. It proved that sometimes the best innovations come not from design bureaus and testing facilities, but from frustrated pilots and clever mechanics working under portable lights on forward airfields. One pilot's crazy idea became a tactical revolution,
and in the process, it changed forever how fighters hunt ships.